And we're back here at 1510. I'm your host, Wade Norris. This is Ultimate Politics. You can check this out on the website, www.ultimatepolitics.net. That's your place for UP News. And we're back here with Wade Buchanan from the Bell Policy Center. We had someone ask us during the break about what Referendum C was. And for people who may not have participated in the last voting cycle or are new to the state, Referendum C was, well, I'll let Wade explain, not me.
I thought you were doing a very good job.
Wade.
Referendum C was a referendum voted by, or passed by the voters in November of 2005, which essentially said that instead of receiving refunds of the revenues that were coming in the state that Tabor would have allowed, that the voters would allow the state to retain these monies. Remember, I was talking a little earlier about how we weren't allowed to spend above population plus inflation, and why that wasn't the right approach. And so the state was going to start bringing money back in after the recession that was above that limit, even though we had made all these cuts. It was like not being able to refill the reservoir after the drought. And so Referendum C said that for 5 years the state will be able to retain and not have to return to voters those monies that come in above the Tabor limit. That's essentially what Referendum C did. And then it sets a new limit once that 5-year period is up. So from a practical point of view, what Referendum C has done is allow the state services to recover partially from the recession that we had after 9/11 and the stock market crash in the early part, the dot-com bust, the early part of this decade. So that's what Referendum C is. It's, from a practical point of view, brought in about $1 billion more annually than we otherwise would have had to work with at the state level, and it's the reason we're not closing down colleges. It's the reason we're able to do a little bit of road work where we weren't able to before. So that's what Referendum C is.
The Bell Policy Center has done a lot of study on this subject. What kind of things, what are some of the successes that you guys have found out, or what are some things coming out that you guys are doing?
Well, we've, as I mentioned earlier, we try to pay attention to issues involving opportunity, how issues affect opportunity, how public policy affects opportunity. So we've done a lot of work in higher education and K-12, as I mentioned. We've done a lot of work in immigration issues. We were very fundamental in working on the minimum wage measure that passed last time around. But most of our real energy, if we will, has gone into this fiscal issue. The revenues that the state has to keep, has at its disposal to try to solve these problems. That's where our real focus has been. We did really the primary work that other folks hadn't yet done on trying to understand how Tabor had affected the budget. We had a lot to do with the passage of Referendum C. And now, with our partners, the Colorado Children's Campaign and the Colorado Fiscal Policy Institute, we're working on a study that will be out soon to try to see where Referendum C has gotten us. And the basic conclusion we're reaching is that Ref C, if the economy stays good, Ref C will essentially fund the status quo over the next 5 or 6 years. So we have, in fact, stopped throwing the rocks at the drowning man. It has, in fact, succeeded to that extent. But there is very little other money, very few resources, even though some folks argue that it's coming in like a torrent. It's really not. And there's very little resource to do anything about health care reform, or anything about the graduation rate, or anything about catching up on some of the backlog in roads. We're very anxious. There's a number of groups out there that are talking about solutions. It's very good for them to be doing that. Many of them are focused on solutions for specific parts of state government or parts of the budget. They're worried about, how do we take care of this transportation issue? How do we take care of the fact that higher education is behind? How do we take care of the fact that there's over 700,000 people in Colorado without health care insurance? Our argument is we need to understand that all of these issues are related to one another, and they're related to one another because we have designed a system of taxation and spending limits and other constitutional provisions in the state that prevent us from addressing those issues. And if we go after piecemeal solutions, we're just probably going to make the situation worse. So we're very anxious to head into that discussion. Our report will be out soon. It's called Looking Forward. And
what's your website?
Website is www.thebell.org. Look for we have a PowerPoint presentation of the preliminary results of the study that should be up sometime in the next week if it's not up already, and then the actual written report will be by the middle of August.
Great. Well, let's look at, people will say, well, why did Colorado go in this direction of Tabor? And we really do need to go back to the root. Grover Norquist, I believe is he from Alabama or Arkansas? I'm not sure where he was, but
he's from Mars.
He's from Mars. There you go. He's the one that came up when he was 12. Now, our tax policy has been affected by a guy who came up with this slogan: "No new taxes." When he was 12. When I was 12, I had a lot of great ideas. I didn't think they were good for policy, but apparently he did. And his famous quote is, "We want to make government small enough so that we can take it to the bathtub and drown it."
Drown it in the bathtub.
Yeah. If Grover Norquist is in a car accident, which I don't hope happens, I'm not saying that, I hope he has a ambulance driver and a medic that's been properly paid and trained by government, tax-sponsored government training, and met certain standards.
And I hope they don't know who he is when they find him.
Well, yeah, that's maybe a Jefferson's episode. Anyway, the point is that kind of thinking, the no new taxes, make taxes go away, or government should, his other quote is, my ideal citizen is a guy that, homeschools his kid, has his own gun, and runs his own business because he doesn't need the government for anything.
Right.
Well, that single-mindedness of the self-made person is really a facade, because a community is made up of a group of people. And the best illustration I can give for that, in that movie Wisdom, well, it's talking about there's a Harrison Ford's in it. It's Amish country, and in the old days,
Oh, The Witness.
The Witness. That's it.
Right.
That's it. The folks came together. It's time to build a barn. You get all the men and women together, and you have to have people. You have to have people to put up these frames, because you didn't have cranes and stuff like. Well, it just took a community to do projects.
And there are things that it takes a community to do.
And we're still a community. You can't the only kind of lifestyle that we could have if we were to have a Grover Norquist lifestyle would be a fur trapper.
Yeah.
Where you're wearing fur clothes and you're living out on the range, and it's very not family oriented, and it's very be unpleasant for most of your life. So we got to get back to the root, and Grover Norquist came up with this idea that directly led to talking points that ended up making it possible for Tabor to receive a lot of positive press, you might say, back when it was passed. And still, with all these deficiencies, when Referendum C was coming up, it was still getting railed against from the right conservatives.
Yeah, be careful. There's a lot of good Republican, even conservative Republicans are very supportive of Referendum C. So this is not a partisan thing.
Yeah, I don't want to cast that light, because on this show I've often said there are Republicans and Democrats, and then there's corporatists, which you can't tell who they are, and they often support principles that are not good. But fortunately, we did have a common sense middle ground that said, hey, we need some more money in the state.